रिकॉर्डिंग
अरे छोड़ो जिसे आना है रिकॉर्डिंग की वो होती नहीं, कहते हैं कि आवाज़ नहीं आ रही। So last time 19 minutes का तो हो गया था। ठीक थी वो रिकॉर्डिंग। ये वाला एड्रेस है, इसमें ऑडियो अच्छे से आता है। ओके। Right. So, the Russian school of formalism. We are talking about that, right? And yesterday we were talking about how formalist critics, specifically the Russian formalists, they feel that poetry makes use of certain devices. And we talked about a number of devices which work in poetry. The thing that you have to keep in your mind is that this formalism, it is more applicable on the poetic structure rather than on any prose. That's applicable everywhere, but it's more applicable on poetic structure, right? So yesterday we talked about so many devices like hyperbole, parallelism, paradox, irony, iambic pentameter. So all these devices working together, they provide a kind of organic unity to any work of art. Right?
Yes, sir.
And if you remember, I quoted some examples from different texts. Say, for example, that of paradox. I quoted it from Paradise Lost. If you try to have a look at the structure of Paradise Lost, you'll find that paradox is working there. And due to this paradox, Paradise Lost is a great epic today. See, about Bacon it is said that he was the wisest, the brightest and the meanest of mankind. Right? Even then, he is one of the greatest authors even today. So the simple reason is that had he not been the meanest, he could not have been the Bacon we read at the present time. Getting my point? So he is remembered not only because he was the wisest, he is remembered not because he was the brightest, but he is remembered just because he was the meanest also. Getting my point? If you remember, this is a couplet about Bacon. If parts allure thee, think how Bacon shine, the wisest, brightest, and the meanest of mankind. He was the wisest, no doubt. He was the brightest, no doubt. And he was the meanest also. Do you know why? Why do you feel that he was the meanest? Who gave this couplet? If parts allure thee, think how Bacon shine, the wisest, brightest, and meanest of mankind. Who said so? Most of you are net qualified, but the basic level, I think this is, can I say doubtful or not doubtful?
That's the pure.
Alexander Pope.
Yes, sir.
Alexander Pope. So why he has been called the meanest? Any idea? See, Bacon was a great disciple of Machiavelli.
So he talks in very practical manner.
That is a matter, but what is the root cause for which he is called the meanest also? and I'm not able to recall the name of one critic. He said that Bacon is like a hidden snake in the grass, Lytton or
Sir, because of the bribe scene.
because of.
Bribe scene. So, in Bacon's life.
See, I'm telling you. See, Bacon basically he was a great disciple of Machiavelli, and I hope you are familiar with the idea of Machiavelli. He had a very simple theory. If you want to achieve your goal, you achieve it either by hook or by crook. Don't care for the means. The means may be good, the means may be bad. Right? And if you remember, he was taken to the court of Queen Elizabeth by one of his friends. Later, he used this friend for his own benefit. So you just can say that he sacrificed his own friendship. Why? In order to gain the favor of Queen Elizabeth. Once upon a time, he was very close to Queen Elizabeth.
Yes.
And that was when he cheated his friend. The friend who took him to the court of Queen Elizabeth. So the basic thing is that if you want to achieve your goal, this is the Machiavellian theory. If you want to achieve your goal, you achieve it. Either by hook or by crook. Don't care for the means. Right? Somehow you can here compare to, thinkers and to philosophers. Nietzsche and Hegel. Nietzsche and Hegel. Right? And you can analyze the concept of the Superman. You can analyze the concept of the Superman. Right? Nietzsche, he has given a very different idea. And Hegel, he has given a very different idea. Getting my point? If you talk about Hegelian superhero, you just can say actually he believes in the fact that, if ends are good, then means can be justified. If ends are good, then means can be justified. For that you need to go through any text. And I can refer to Crime and Punishment, but I don't feel that we have to have that. Later we can talk about it. Fine. So what I am telling to you is that this approach, the Russian school of formalism, it is more applicable on the poetic structure rather than on the prose structure, right? Then there are two more points around which this theory works. Two terms are there. One is fabula and the other is sujet. Right? Now what is fabula and what is sujet? Yes.
So fabula is the raw material of the story.
Okay.
And subject is kind of plot, logical arrangement of that story. And these two concepts are given by Victor Sapolsky.
See, that is basically related to narration. Right? If you talk about fabula, that is, sorry?
Chronological events.
Yeah. We just can say chronological sequence of events in a narration. I repeat, fabula is basically chronological sequence of events in a narration. And when you talk about sujet, it creates the effect of defamiliarization. So, sujet, that is the way and the manner in which events are narrated, or you just can say this is the manipulation of those events. Say for example, you can understand it with the help of a very simple story. I'm dividing the story in points. Point number A. a murder takes place. Nobody knows who murdered this man. I mean, someone is found murdered on the road, right? Point B. The police arrive at the spot and they try to investigate the matter, but they are not able to find out any clue. Number C. They call a famous detective. I mean, they take the service of a famous detective, right? Number D. The detective works on this task, makes enquiry, goes here and there in order to collect some proofs. Number E. Finally, the murderer is found and the crime is detected. Right? So I have narrated the story in a sequence from point A to B to C to D to E. So beginning of the story is point A, where a crime takes place, where a dead body is found either on any road or inside the house. It may be anywhere, right? Point B, again that is in a sequence. The police arrive over there. They try to investigate. When they are not able to find out any clue, then a famous detective is hired. He works on this mystery. Finally, he gets the result and the murderer is arrested. This is fabula. Chronological sequence of events in a narrative. So this is a narrative, and here we have find a kind of chronological sequence of events, right? Suje is the manipulation of those events. Now you can begin the story from point E. As you find in a number of movies, as you find in a number of novels. What happens in the movies? Initially we come to know about a murder, and later we are told about the regions of the murder, or we are told about the murderer, or we are introduced to the real culprit. I mean, the story takes place in a flashback. That is cinematic technique. You just can see. Is that clear? Yes. So, Suje is the manipulation of those events, right? You can begin the story from point E, you can begin the story from point C, you can begin the story from point D, even you can have the point of view of the murderer also. Getting my point? The murderer, why he committed the murder? There must be some reason, there must be some clear-cut reason. If he is not a psycho killer, right? Some people, they are mentally disturbed, then they remain involved in such types of crimes. If a person is sane, then there must be some reason. So you can have the point of view of the murderer also. And the murderer, I mean, if you hear the point of view of the murderer, then you can justify the murder. I mean, you can apply what you say, negative capability. Have you seen the latest movie One Friday Night? One Friday Night? No. The story of a couple. The husband is a business tycoon. The wife is a famous doctor. Both are living separately. Fortunately or unfortunately, the husband develops illicit relationship with a 21 or 22-year-old girl. They start living in live-in relationship. More unfortunately, she becomes pregnant. One day what happens? One night basically, it was the Friday night. The husband is running after this lady with whom he is living. Now they are, lover and beloved, not husband and wife. Right? It's a kind of play between the two. he falls down and he is severely wounded. Right? The lady doctor is called. Unfortunately, this lady doctor is the wife of that husband. The whole story takes place at that particular night. So there she comes to know about all the things. Some emotional drama, some sentiments are there, some illogical dialogues are there, some absurdity is there. Right? What happens finally? The wife murders the husband. Actually, she sends that girl to kitchen in order to get some coffee. And meanwhile, she takes a pillow and she puts it over the mouth of the husband who is already wounded. And she becomes the, what should I say, Othello. Right? Othello also murders Desdemona in the same way. She murders him and she basically takes she does not take the permission of that other lady, but she says that she is leaving the room. But that other lady, she insists on staying for the rest of the night, but she denies. The other lady is under the perception that this man is wounded and he has been given some medicine and perhaps he would be absolutely right in the morning. Now she is not aware of the fact that some game has already been played by the wife. Right? So she leaves the home. And in the morning, the secret is revealed to all. This is not the secret, but this is the murder which is revealed to all. Now the entire blame, it comes on that lady. Right? There is trial in the court, but that wife, she manipulates things in a way that there is no clue of her crime. And finally, that innocent girl who was living illegally with the husband of a different lady, she is given lifelong imprisonment. What is the point of view? You can justify the point of view of the wife. Yes. A murder has taken place there. Right? We know that the murder has been committed by wife. The public does not know. Is that clear? Yes. So you can narrate this story from the viewpoint of the murderer, that is the wife. You can narrate this story from the viewpoint of the police force, right? And you can narrate the story from the viewpoint of that innocent girl who has been given lifelong imprisonment. So there may be so many ways. Getting my point? So what is the function of this suture? The function of this suture is to provide a kind of defamiliarization, means something known is turned into strange, and when this something known is turned into strange, it is felt, and when it is felt, the story becomes interesting. It looks like a piece of literature. I hope you are getting my point. Yes, sir. I mean, you can begin from the very, very, basic. Say, for example, if we talk about a story and a plot. What is the difference between a story and a plot? Yes.
So plot is in chronological.
Yes, you. Yes. Yes.
So story would be the basic pattern and plot is the main structure of the events that are happening.
You can take the help of poetics. Yes.
So plot is arranged in a chronological manner. Where the story is
Yes, now you.
So plot is chronological and logically and so plot is chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
Chronological order and very logically structured.
No, you cannot say in chronological order, but there must be a sequence. When you talk about a plot, a plot. Yes.
Sequence of those events.
Okay, I'm simplifying it. right? You need to have some example. See, there was a king. He had 3 daughters. One day he died. This is an example of story, right? Then I say there was a king. He had 3 daughters. He loved the youngest one very much. One day he called all the daughters one by one. First he called the eldest one and asked, "How much do you love me, my dear?" She said, "I love you more than anything in the world." Fine. Then the second one, "My dear, how much do you love me?" She says, "I can do anything for you in the world. That much I love you." Then the third one, "My dearest one, how much do you love me?" He was expecting something different and the answer was absolutely different. She said, "I love you just like a father, not more than a father. I respect you just like a king, not more than a king." He was offended and he banished her and he divided the kingdom into 2 parts. Story or plot.
Yes, sir.
Plot. Getting my point? Yes. Some cause must be there. If I say there was a king and he died, story. Then I say there was a king and he was suffering from tuberculosis or from cancer and that's why he died, plot. So when you talk about a plot should have a beginning, it should have a middle, it should have an end. Right? The second event should follow the first one, the third should follow the second one, the fourth should follow the third one, and the fifth should follow the fourth. So chronology is not necessary, but sequence must be there. There should be a kind of correlation. I mean, the incidents must be interconnected. Getting my point? How can you recognize that the plot is loose or plot is strong? I am saying that the plot of Dr. Foster's is very weak. Some critics even go to the extent of saying that there is no plot in Dr. Foster's. Why? Why do you feel that the plot of Dr. Foster's is weak?
There are some events which are not even required.
Okay, like
That the scene where all the priests are dancing, there is a very speech about Helen.
you have the idea, but you are not able to give it in a proper way. I mean, the verse that I want you to speak. Any other one?
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, what is the difference between sequence and chronology?
See, chronology you just can say date wise. Say for example, if I take birth in one particular year, then the rest of the events they should take place after this year. When you talk about sequence is not chronological basically. Sequence is a kind of correlation that is missing in Hamlet. Getting my point? When we say that Hamlet is an artistic failure, T.S. Eliot basically says so. It's a great work. Hamlet is a great work. But Eliot says that it is an artistic failure.
Yes.
Why? Simply.
Hamlet cannot justify his feelings.
What is the main reason? Don't go towards the explanation. Just talk about the region in terms of term. What is the actual term? What is the actual term that is missing there? That is my point. What is missing there?
Sir, sequence.
Objective correlative.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Getting my point? Because objective correlative is not there.
Sir, why sequence? Sequence of events.
I mean, you are saying the same things in a different way. I am saying the same thing in a different way. Right? So this is not what I am not trying to deconstruct your idea.
Yes.
Getting my point? Again, the same idea. When we say that knowledge is never fixed, truth can never be absolute. If you agree with my statement, this is only when I marginalize your statements.
Yes.
Getting the point? So, Knowledge is never fixed. It keeps changing. The technology that we have at the present time, it will improve after 10 years or after 50 years. Okay. Right now we are, in the time of 5G or 6G.
Sir, now 5G, लेकिन 6G is coming.
It's imminent basically. So technology is different today. Technology was different 10 years back. It was different 50 years back, 100 years back, during the Middle Ages. And it will change after 20 years, 50 years, or 60 years.
So now, after 6 months, 50 can get this.
That's why knowledge is never fixed. And truth can never be absolute. It is always relative. So there the main point is that what is missing in Hamlet, that is objective correlative. Objective correlative. Emotion can best be expressed in poetry through objective correlative. What is that? This is, it may be a chain of events, it may be a chain of some situations which can be a formula for the arousal of some particular emotion or feeling. Right? Try to have a look at Hamlet. Hamlet is a clear-cut victim of Oedipus complex. Right?
Yes.
Unconsciously, he is trying to sleep with his mother. And that's why he hates his father, that is Claudius. Not the real father, but Claudius. Right? Why? Because the place that he wants to have with his mother, that has already been occupied by Claudius. And that's why he is not able to take the revenge of his father's murder. The simple reason is that, why does he want to kill Claudius? He wants to kill Claudius just because Claudius is spoiling the royal bed of Denmark. He is sleeping with his mother. Don't you feel that unconsciously he is also trying to sleep with his mother in terms of Oedipus complex?
Yes.
Right? So he is committing the same crime for which he is trying to kill his uncle. So if he has to kill his uncle, first he will have to kill himself. And in this process, he is able neither to kill his uncle or nor himself or nor his uncle. And that's why, one quality of Hamlet is that he has an obsession for suicide. Have you marked it? I mean, did you notice it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
He had an obsession for suicide, to be or not to be, to live or not to live. The time is out of joint, oh cursed spite, that ever I was born to set right. Do you not come your tardy son to chide, who lives in time and action? Skepticism is there, relativism is there, existentialism is there, everything is there. Even then, T.S. Eliot calls it an artistic failure. So what is there in the mind of Hamlet? What is there in the heart of Hamlet? Gertrude has no idea about it. Right? There is a huge misunderstanding between the two, or you just can say that there is a huge communication gap between the two. Right? Hamlet has Oedipal feelings for his mother, but the mother has no such feelings. She is not even aware of such feelings which are taking place in the heart of her son. So there is no correlation of the feelings, and that's why it has been called an artistic failure. Is that clear?
Yes.
So, you can narrate the story from the viewpoint of negative capability also. Right? Again the same thing. Hamlet can be a villain, he can be a hero. You say that he is a hero, I say that he is a villain. I can prove it. Right? You may find no fault with Gertrude, but I can find a number of faults with Gertrude. You can say that Ophelia was innocent. I say that she was mainly responsible for the tragedy of Hamlet. Only she and she and she on number one. Gertrude on number two. Than he himself. So you may have so many interpretations. Who is responsible for the heinous crimes of Macbeth? The witches? Lady Macbeth?
He himself.
Or he himself?
Multiple interpretations. And his wife also.
You can have multiple interpretations. So there can be no absolute interpretation. There can be no one true interpretation. There may be so many interpretations. And all the interpretations may be valid, provided you prove them logically. Getting my point?
Yes.
It should not be like as the story takes place in some absurd drama. Like if the story is, I was passing through a jungle, suddenly the sun came before me, I fell into a deep pit of darkness, suddenly a snake appeared before me, I came out and the light was there. Is there anything in this story?
No, sir.
Any moral?
No, sir.
Any beginning? Any end? Any middle? Any logic? Any sequence? Any chronology? What is that?
No, sir.
क्या है ये?
Waste of words.
Absurd.
So, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So why it came into entity into the 20th century society only? Why not in the Victorian era?
So we used to have God, like people's morals and etc. They were decided by the church. So they were not that much thinking about individualism and about the aim of life, what they are doing in that particular place. Citizen came as a response because of the wars and etc. they faced. So they encountered death, and for example, if there is a lady, she
Right. Literature basically reflects the
Yes, sir.
society.
Sir, modern world is very much suffering from depression, oppression, suppression. That's why that impact.
Exactly.
Like Samuel Beckett.
You try to peep into the windows of the minds of some people,
Yes.
and you try to understand the mechanism working inside the minds. You can't evaluate what is going on there and why. Right? Now, irrational is rational and rational is irrational.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sensitive is insensitive and insensitive is sensitive. Logical is illogical and illogical is logical. Now, narratives are working. Narratives can change the things. If the narrative is that Rahul is a pappu, then he is a pappu. You go to villages and you ask about Rahul Gandhi. Doesn't matter how much they know about Rahul Gandhi, about his education, about his works, about his tours, his thinking capacity, his attitudes. But suddenly they will say, oh, wo pappu. Narrative. A narrative is there. Getting my point?
yes, sir.
Absurd. Try to have a look at the debates on different TV channels.
Yes, sir.
If your BP is normal, what is the parameter of normal BP? 90? 80? Okay. So, you can check it. I mean, if you are a person who can say that right is right and wrong is wrong, that this is white and this is black. If you have a soul, when I say soul, it means which rebukes you when you do something wrong, which scolds you when you are on a wrong path. In that case, you can check your BP before listening to any debate, before 80, and once the debate of 30 minutes is over, it can go up to 180, I'm sure. I'm very habitual of, I have a bad habit whenever I sleep, I just hear some debate. And I don't know whether after 5 minutes or 10 minutes I go into the leopard of the goddess of sleep. Right? I'm habitual of it. But someday the debate is so illogical that it disturbs the whole night. And then I'm not able to sleep up to 2 or 3 or sometimes it is 4 in the morning.
Yes.
I never check my BP. The only thing I check is my weight. And that always remains between 56 to 57. I never check my BP. I never check any. I never try to get it checked by any doctor, because once you get it checked, there may be so many problems. Our life is uncertain. Death is inevitable. So one day you have to die. What is the need of getting any kind of check? It's useless. Doctors basically suggest all the things to people which they never apply on themselves. Getting my point? Anyways, so you can have different interpretations. Is that clear? So that is suja. It provides a kind of variety to narration, or it makes any kind of narration lively, and it creates a kind of interest in the narration. Getting my point?
Yes.
And regarding absurd drama, why it came into the 20th century only, life has become absurd. The nature of life has become absurd. There is a deterioration in relationships, all relationships, be it mother, son, mother, father, son, daughter, man, woman. Everywhere there is a kind of deterioration. You might have seen so many love marriages which ended in 75 pieces of the beloved. Unbelievable. Some love marriages have been there, and tragically, one love marriage ended in the form of 75 small pieces of that. Right? This is the time when there is a kind of regeneration of the Greek age. You can find a number of Clytemnestras. In a day, I think there may be 100 unfortunate husbands who are murdered by their wives in the company of their wives, and vice versa. There may be some women who are murdered. Unfortunately, there is no attractive thing for males, but there are so many attractive terms for females. Is that clear? So we have interpretations, and variety in interpretation is given by suja. So this suja, it creates the effect of defamiliarization. It makes the narrative somehow interesting, and it becomes, you just can say, appealing to the watchers and to the readers.
Then, sir, Dr. Foster is the example of such a kind of drama.
No, there I was talking about plot. The plot of Dr. Foster's is weak. In fact, there is no plot in it. See, just talk about the basics. So let us be very simple only, then we can simplify the things. A plot should have a beginning, it should have a middle, and it should have an end. Right? You remember what is said in the definition of tragedy. An imitation of an action, serious, complete, and of certain magnitude. So that simply means that the plot should have a beginning, it should have a middle, it should have an end. And the story, it should be neither too lengthy nor too short. There should be a kind of balance. Right? Now try to... You all have read Dr. Faustus?
Yes.
Sure. You? Okay. The beginning of Dr. Faustus is absolutely right. No problem. Right? It begins on the story of a man who is born in a very poor family, but he's very intelligent, and very soon he achieves knowledge in all the subjects, defeats all the people in different debates, right? And then he becomes over ambitious, like Icarus. And he feels that every knowledge is useless because with the help of this knowledge he cannot make a dead man alive. Getting my point? He wanted to make a dead man alive. Only then this knowledge could have been useful. And if he is not able to make a dead man alive, then this knowledge is useless. What he is doing, other doctors are also doing. There is no difference between him and other scholars, even after working so hard. And that's why he takes the help of necromancy. Then there is a tug of war in his heart and mind and body and soul. And finally, evil prevails, because I told you yesterday also that evil fascinates us. We are easily attracted towards evil than good. That is human nature. Instinctually, we are inclined towards evil. That is human nature. Right? Then he makes a pact for 24 years, you know very well. Right? Okay, that is the beginning. Very good. Not an issue. You go to the end of the book. There we see this man going through intense agony. A great scholar who defeated so many people in all debates, who achieved the height of knowledge, how he is suffering in the end. His condition is very, very pathetic. He's turning to all the objects of nature. He's turning to God. He's turning to Jesus Christ. And he says, "Oh God, please save me. I just want to live. 1 hour is left on me." And he says, "Oh God, please turn this 1 hour into 1 year. If not into 1 year, into 1 month. If not into 1 month, into 1 week. If not into 1 week, at least turn it into 1 day, so that I can repent on my sins." Right? And he turns to Jesus Christ. "Oh Christ, you saved the humanity with your blood. Will you not give just 1 drop of blood to save me? Half drop." But no one listens to him. Here, this tragedy, it deviates from Christianity. That I hope you know. Right? So in the end, we get a moral lesson. And what is the moral lesson? Catharsis works over there, and there is the arousal of the feelings of pity and fear. We feel pity for Dr. Foster's. See, pity we feel for someone who suffers undeservedly. Now it is up to you whether Dr. Foster suffers undeservedly or he deserves that suffering. It is up to you. My point is that, okay, he was not a criminal. He went against God, but he was not a criminal. Try to have a look at his power that he achieved from Mephistopheles or Lucifer. When he made a contract, or when the contract was over, he had immense powers. Now with this power, he could have been the sole king of the world. He could have killed all the emperors, all the kings, and he could have become the sole king, the sole emperor, the sole ruler of the world. He could have achieved money, this thing and that thing. But no, what he did? He simply wasted his time in pleasing others, in bringing grapes in a different season, in growing something on the head of the clergy, and he used this time in achieving knowledge. He was also a Machiavellian disciple. He wanted to have infinite knowledge. He was not satisfied with something that is finite. That was a problem with Bacon, and that's why he died. I hope you know how he died. He was a scientist also, and he wanted to see whether a bird can be preserved in ice or not. For that, he remained out of home under the sky during a cold night. He caught cold and he died. Why did he die? Because he wanted to achieve infinite knowledge. Again, that was the problem of Dr. Foster. He was not satisfied with what he had. He wanted to have the height of knowledge. I mean, he wanted to have that power which only God can use. Means he wanted to make a dead man alive, and that is not possible. That's why he took the help of necromancy. Is that clear? So, in the end, the feelings of pity and fear. Pity we feel for Dr. Faustus. Again, I am telling you, Dr. Faustus is an over-ambitious, but he is not a criminal, so I can defend him. I don't know whether you can defend him or not. I can defend him because he was not a criminal. Moreover, after achieving power, he could have done so many things, but he didn't do that. Getting my point? He just satisfied his quest for knowledge and he pleased others. These are the only things he did. I mean, he remained vigilant tomfoolery only.
They also feel pity for him in the end.
And if you feel pity for him, the next moment this pity turns into fear. Because you feel that you may also be in the same situation in which Dr. Faustus is. Then what is the result? You get a message. The message is that you should not follow the footsteps of Dr. Faustus. I mean, you should never try to reveal the secrets of nature as Dr. Faustus did. If you do that, you will also be in the same situation in which Dr. Faustus was. So the moment you leave the theatre, in case you see it in the form of a movie, the moment you finish the book, you come out with a moral lesson. Your feelings are purged, purified, and clarified through the emotions of pity and fear. So the beginning is very good. The end is very good. But there is no middle. What the hell he does in the middle part? He remains busy in tomfoolery. Isn't it? There are so many comic scenes, so many humorous scenes, and he's a very part and parcel of all the scenes. Such tomfoolery does not suit a character like Dr. Faustus, a product of Wittenberg University, the only scholar who defeated all scholars in all subjects. So such tomfoolery like drawing something on the head of the clergy and playing with some horse dealer, you know, if you have gone through the text.
Yes.
So it does not suit an intelligent person like Dr. Faustus. So there is no middle. So the beginning is very good. The end is very good.
But there is no pity.
Middle.
Middle side.
The middle part is missing. There is nothing in the middle. There is no plot. There is no story. I mean, there is no logic in the middle part. That's why the plot of Dr. Faustus is very weak. And the condition of a good plot is that it should have a beginning, it should have a middle, and it should have an end. And in the Aristotelian sense, it should have peripeteia, it should have an anagnorisis. These things you can understand when you go through, Oedipus the King is the only tragedy where all the concepts of tragedy are absolutely applicable. I mean, Aristotelian concepts of tragedy. You talk about Hermosia, you talk about anagnorisis, you talk about peripeteia, all the things. So all the things, they fit absolutely on Oedipus the King. And the reason is very simple. Aristotle was writing for his own age. Right? Aristotelian concept of tragedy, you cannot fit it absolutely on the Shakespearean tragedy, though Shakespeare follows most of the points of Aristotle, but it cannot be a replica, what I am trying to say. Is that clear? So, what is there in a narration? In the narration, we have to find out the cause. Right? The story may be that the X is in love with Y. Right? Mr. X is in love with Miss Y. So when you read the story, so the point should not be how this X is in love with Miss Y. The point must be how betrayal is taking place there. How one is cheating other. How there has been manipulation of things. So that should be the crux. Getting my point? If you go through the story of Romeo and Juliet, the traditional way is that we have to find a love story in it. You can, even today we give the example of Romeo and Juliet. But a deep reading of the text can make you aware of so many things. And you cannot say that Romeo was perfect for Juliet and Juliet was perfect for Romeo. Getting my point?
Yes.
Who can say that there was real love between the two? Antony and Cleopatra. Is it a tragedy of love? I feel it is a tragedy of lust.
Yes.
Taj Mahal, that is supposed to be a symbol of love. I feel this is the symbol of lust. It was constructed for Mumtaz. And Mumtaz was, I think, the 14th or 16th or 15th?
14.
Huh?
14.
14th wife of Shah Jahan. Now, what is the parameter of evaluating that now this love is true? On the first time, or second time, the third time, the fourth time. During the first relationship, the intensity of love, it starts decreasing after 2 or 3 days. If during the first meeting, the intensity of love between the two is 100% or 200%, some can say 200%. After 3 or 4 days, it would start decreasing. From 99% to it will go to 98 and one day 0%. Why? Again, human nature. We crave only for the things which are out of our reach. The moment we achieve anything, it becomes, I'm not saying useless, less valuable to us. It was only Cleopatra who had infinite variety. What happens the more you see anyone? The more a kind of, you just can say, boredom you can have. But with Cleopatra, the case was the more you see her, the more you will fall in love with her because she has infinite variety. Time cannot stay, age cannot with her and time cannot stay her infinite variety. That's why from Pompey to Julius Caesar and then Antony, all were her slaves. She was a black lady and all were her slaves. They all used to lick her toes. She was a black lady. Right? So we crave only for the things which are out of reach. The moment the things come within our reach, they become less valuable. That is human nature. Actually, there is a concept, and that is the concept of pleasure while going through psychoanalysis. Human mind, it has so many instincts. Okay? So there is one particular instinct that craves for pleasure. Right? That is known as pleasure instinct. The rest of the instincts, they basically follow this one instinct. So the main purpose of human beings is to achieve pleasure. In eating we get a kind of pleasure. In teaching we get a kind of pleasure. In reading, in doing so many things we get a kind of pleasure. But the problem is that we never remain satisfied with one thing. Human nature is that it can never remain satisfied with one thing. And that's why so many inventions have taken place. We get something, we start craving for another thing. We get that another thing, we start craving for yet another thing. Getting my point? Initially, there could have been some hypothesis about how to fly in the sky. And that could be after seeing the birds in the sky. Then someone worked on it, and the result was that aeroplane came into entity. Today we have gone to the moon also. We are trying to go to other different planets also. Fine. So pleasure consists in variety. Right? So the concern of a formalist critic is that it doesn't matter how much this X loves Y or Y loves X. The concern should be, what is the region of betrayal? Who betrayed other? What are the regions of the differences between the two? So that should be the concern. A traditional reader would read the story of Romeo and Juliet from a different perspective. That is a love story to them. Romeo is the best lover. Juliet is the best beloved. But from a modern perspective, there may be different interpretations.
Yes.
Traditional view about Taj Mahal is that this is the symbol of love. I am saying this is the symbol of lust. 16th or 14th wife. What is the guarantee of the fact that she was the real love of that emperor?
It can also be a symbol of deception. For example, he wanted us to believe that it was all love, but then he wanted glory.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can be the symbol of deception. It can be a symbol of getting glory and so many things. So many things.
So the metaphysical poem like to his calm stress, we can also apply this concept in this poem because some people say that this is a love poem, but I think this is a lustful poem. When it begins, if we were enough at time, this poem is maybe one more time we would sit down, think which way to walk and talk.
Your interpretation. I'm not challenging it.
So this is very lustful poem, how he depicts female charm and
See, you need to have a look at the point of view of the male. What you are doing, you are diagnosing the point of view of the female. Unfortunately, the female is absolutely silent there. Has she uttered even a single word? So this is one-sided interpretation. If you are saying that this is a poem of lust,
yes.
his praise, after all, some things are very basic.
So in some way we can also say, for example, in that particular poem we get to a point, in the start of the poem she was not agreeing with him, but at the very end she agreed. So it does show that she is prone to manipulation. But if
And to his point stress,
yes,
she agrees.
in the end it seems like it.
Which is the line which indicates that she
No,
agrees?
sir, she does not agree.
So,
No indication.
I read
No,
some
no, no.
interpretation where it was
It ends only on the syllogism of the speaker.
Yes, sir.
so wasn't there a sharp say in the front she at some point she performed a particular action. For example, she clapped her hands to kill that
Yes. Sir,
No, you are talking about the last ride together. You are talking about the last ride together. There, there is only.
Sir, please at the flea.
Yeah, the
That's
flea.
poem.
In the last ride together also, there is some slight indication.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
When he comes, the description is very beautiful. She is coming like a goddess. The sun rays are reflecting over her bosom, and the bosom looks very, nice due to the reflection of the rays of the sun, and she looks like a goddess. He's fascinated, and then he says, "Okay, since you have said that you will not come with me or you cannot live with me, I just want to have one favor from you, and this is, would you ride with me for the last time?"
Yes.
Instantly, she says nothing. She thinks. And in the next line, the narrator says, the speaker says that the time that she is taking in thinking, it was the time of, it was like life and death to him. On her no, it was like his death. Her yes was like his life. Right?
Yes.
Do you remember what she said?
No, sir. Denied.
Hmm?
Denied.
No, okay.
No, 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 she doesn't. Agree. Agree.
Fine. Context is very necessary.
Yes, sir.
You can say, sir, are you coming with us? I can say yes, I can say no, I can say fine. What does it mean?
So up for argumentation. Up for-
Affirmation. She said only fine. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So there again you can have so many interpretations.
Yes, sir.
So this is not a simple ride in a chariot. What he is suggesting is ride has sexual connotations. And if you go through the story, I can prove it with the help of different words. If you make a formalist study of the poem, then what you have to do, your focus must be on individual verse, imagery, tone, and dialogues. Only then you can find out the meaning. And if you analyze all these things, in the end you can say that it has sexual connotations. Is that clear? So, fabula and suja both are clear?
Yes, sir.
Plot and story clear?
Yes.
Then I have given you so many interpretations of this. So the Russian school of formalism is over, and now we have to talk about literature. They both are similar, very similar. They both talk about form, and the content is analyzed in relation to form with the help of certain literary devices and with the help of certain crafts used by the author. Anything you want to know? Now tell me, see, do you want to have offline classes or online?
Offline, sir.